Rebecca, Chapter 2, A Showy Dinner. Mama set platters of food on the table, and Max spooned out a big helping of potatoes. "There's a new play coming to the Yiddish theater," he announced. "Such a long time it's been since we see a play," Grandpa said. "We don't want to see Yiddish plays," Sadie said. "We like moving pictures." As usual, Sophie didn't say a word, but she nodded in agreement. "Moving pictures," Grandpa said in his thick accent. "Why you want to see people moving in pictures when you can see real people moving on stage?" "Movies are smooth," Sophie said. "We're going to see a show tomorrow with our friends." Grandpa seemed puzzled. "What is smooth?" "It means modern and exciting," said Sadie. Rebecca could only imagine what a moving picture looked like. She had seen posters advertising the newest movies, but she'd never been to one. "Can I come?" she asked. The twins stopped their spoons in mid-air. With one voice they replied, "You're not old enough." "You always leave me out," Rebecca argued. "We're in high school," Sadie reminded her, as if Rebecca hadn't heard that 1,000 times. "There's plenty of time for that nonsense when you're older," Papa declared. "I don't think these new moving pictures are meant for children." Rebecca fumed. The twins got to do everything together. Even at night, they whispered under their covers while her bed stood alone on the opposite side of the room. Victor glanced at Grandpa with an impish grin, and they turned to Benny. "Speaking of pitches," he said to his brother, "how about catching baseball for me tomorrow afternoon?" Benny wiggled with excitement. "I can get the ball even if it rolls under the fence." The twins are best friends, and Victor and Benny can play ball together, Rebecca thought. But I have only myself. I'm always left out, even on Friday nights. Rebecca thought of her friend Rose. She had her own candlestick and lit the candles beside her mother every Sabbath. If I had some candlesticks of my own, Rebecca thought, Mama would have to let me light candles. Her idea began to glow more brightly. She could stand right next to Sadie and Sophie. Then they'd see she was old enough to perform the ceremony, and even old enough to go to the movies. "I heard the Boston Red Sox have a new player," Max said, taking 2 crispy pieces of fish. "His name is Babe Ruth." "Babe?" Bubby scowled. "This is a name?" "I read about him in the paper," Victor said. "They say he's going to be an ace pitcher. I wish he was playing for the Yankees." "If he's good," Max said, "maybe we'll sign him next year." "Enough about baseball," Papa said. "Now that school has started, I want to hear how my children are doing." "In English class, we're reading a wonderful play called Hamlet," Sadie announced. "It's by William Shakespeare," Sophie added. Max looked pleased. "Ah, the very best of theater." Rebecca butted in. Why should her sisters get all the attention? "I got 110% on my arithmetic test," she announced, looking directly at Papa. "Miss Maloney gives us extra credit problems, and I even got that right." "Doing well in school is indeed something to be proud of," Mama said gently. "But be careful not to boast." She wagged her finger at the children. "You realize how lucky you are. In Russia, we never had the chance to go to school." Max nodded in agreement. "Life was hard growing up in Russia, but I have fond memories, too." He lightly touched Bubby's pen with a picture of the leaping hare. "I remember my mother telling me the story of clever Karina." Rebecca knew the story well because Mama had often told it at bedtime. Max began telling the tale, his deep voice as silky as a singer crooning a tune. One morning, a poor farmer was overjoyed to see his horse had given birth to a foal. It was sleeping under a hay wagon in his neighbor's field. The farmer's wealthy neighbor said, "Everyone knows a newborn rests beneath its mother. Since my hay wagon is obviously the mother, that handsome foal is mine." "That's ridiculous," Benny declared, and everyone chuckled. Max went on, telling how the poor man told his only child, Karina, what had happened. Rebecca was drawn into the story. She imagined she was little Karina, trying to help. Acting the role, she said in a sweet voice, "Go to the Tsar, Father, and ask him to settle the matter." Max gave Rebecca a broad smile. He reached for Mama's flowered shawl and draped it around Rebecca's head. Now she truly felt as if she was in a play acting the role of Karina. Max continued, "But when the Tsar heard the story, he did not make a decision. Instead, he posed a riddle. The Tsar said to the 2 men, 'You must each bring your youngest daughter to me, but she must not come on foot nor on horseback. She must not wear clothes, but she must not be naked. She must not bring a present, but she must come with a gift. The one who solves my riddle will keep the foal.'" Phooey on the Tsar, Grandpa scoffed. The poor farmer trudged home, said Max, and told his daughter of the impossible riddle. But clever Karina knew just what to do. Rebecca acted out Karina's solution as Max told the end of the tale. So Karina wrapped herself in her father's fishnet and rode off to the Tsar's palace on the back of a giant hare. In her hand she carried a partridge in a cage. When she arrived before the Tsar, Karina held up the birdcage. Rebecca lifted her hand, looking determined. "Here is a gift, your majesty," she said, and she pretended to open a latch on a cage. Her hands made a graceful flapping motion as if the bird were flying away. The Tsar was pleased with Karina's clever solution to his riddle and decreed that her father should keep the foal. When Karina grew up, the Tsar married her, for he knew he could never find another wife who was nearly as clever. Max took Rebecca's hand and she bowed with him as the family clapped. "What an actress!" Max exclaimed. "Our Becky's a natural talent." Rebecca could barely breathe. Max thought she was a good actress, and her whole family was clapping for her. "I'm auditioning for a movie studio this week," Max said. "Maybe I should bring Becky along." Bubby rolled her eyes. "Don't give her any crazy ideas," she said. Grandpa slapped the table. "Acting is a no-good life for a young lady." "Becky should be a teacher," Papa said, sitting back comfortably. He seemed quite pleased with the idea. Rebecca's shoulders slumped. Why didn't Papa think she should become an actress? After all, Max said she had talent. Papa turned to Victor, ending the discussion. "How about working in the store tomorrow?" he asked. "Tomorrow he comes with me to the synagogue," Grandpa declared. He turned to Victor and said sternly, "So close to your bar mitzvah, your Hebrew is not so good." Bubby shook her head at Papa. "Working on Shabbos," she sighed. "Such a shame." Rebecca knew Jews weren't supposed to work on Saturdays, the day of rest. Grandpa worked at the store all week, but on Saturdays he prayed at the synagogue and often took Victor with him. "I don't like to work on Shabbos, but most people shop on Saturdays. I have to keep the store open if I'm going to support the family," Papa said. "Maybe I can't light the candles or go to a movie," Rebecca thought, "but I can help in Papa's store. Then he'll see how grown up I am." If she did a good job, maybe Papa would give her a few pennies. That would help her save for a candlestick. "I'll work tomorrow," she offered. "I do need help," Papa said. He stroked his mustache thoughtfully. Why don't we try it?" Rebecca brightened. "Wear your best shoes," he added. Max sipped his glass of tea. "What do you hear from your brother Jacob in Russia?" he asked Papa. "Now that Russia is fighting against Germany, they are drafting more men. You know, the Russian army takes Jewish boys as young as 12, Max added. "Jacob's family better get out before the war gets worse." Papa's forehead was creased with lines of worry. "Things in Russia are very difficult," he said with a sigh. He took a letter from his pocket. This came from Jacob today. He read the letter, changing it to English. "Dear brother, I write to tell you that life here is becoming more dangerous as the war spreads. Jews are no longer allowed to work, and I have lost my job. I am afraid to let Joseph and Michael out of the house for fear soldiers will snatch them off the street and force them into the Tsar's army. Food is scarce, and we are thankful when we have a bit of cabbage soup. Little Anna is sick and weak from hunger, and I fear she will not survive another winter here. A friend will try to smuggle us out of Russia, but it will take every kopeck we have left. We beg you to send us ship tickets as soon as possible so we can join you in New York. Our hearts are filled with sorrow knowing the hardship this expense will cause, but we cannot wait any longer." Victor's eyes had a faraway look, and Rebecca wondered if she was imagining what his life would be like if he were in the Russian army. She was glad Victor didn't have to worry about that. Grandpa had said that Jewish boys were often treated harshly and given the most dangerous army jobs. Many boys never saw their families again. "It's no good in the old country," Grandpa said. "From now on, we fill the pushki for family." Max cleared his throat and looked embarrassed. "I wish I could help," he said, "but I can barely pay for the room I'm renting. Somehow you've got to send them tickets right away." "I know," Papa said irritably. "We've been trying to save money for a long time." Sophie looked up. "You don't have to give us our allowance every week," she offered. Rebecca couldn't imagine what it would be like not to have enough food to eat. She looked at the dishes on the table. They were empty only because her family had eaten as much as they wanted. Rebecca felt ashamed. She couldn't spend money on candlesticks when her cousin was starving. I have a little bit saved, Papa, she said. Maybe that will help buy the tickets. Papa shook his head. Don't worry, children. We need much more than your pennies. I'll find a way to raise money. In bed that night, Sadie and Sophie talked until they fell asleep, but Rebecca lay awake thinking about her cousin. Anna must be so frightened. What if she became too sick to escape? The journey from Russia would be longer and dangerous. If only Uncle Jacob's family could make it to New York, Rebecca thought, Anna could be like her sister. Anna was exactly her age. What would it be like just to having a twin? Rebecca could hear Mama and Papa talking softly in the kitchen. The ship's tickets cost at least $30 each, and we need to buy 5 of them. All of our savings wouldn't be enough, Papa said, and Jacob must have $25 in his pocket to get into America. There was a long silence. Rebecca added up the numbers in her head. Papa needed $175. How would he ever save that much? Rebecca crept out of bed and opened her trunk. She took out the knotted handkerchief that held her savings and quietly counted. All she had was 27 cents. Maybe she should give all the money to Papa. But it wasn't nearly enough to buy even one ship ticket, and Papa had said he didn't want her savings. Her wooden dolls lay strewn about in the trunk where she had tossed them after dinner. She put them back together, each doll nestled safely inside the next, but she held the Becky doll close as she snuggled under the covers. Am I being selfish to want candlesticks for myself? Rebecca whispered to her doll. In the dim light from the kitchen, she could barely see Becky's painted smile before she fell asleep.